Welcome back, everyone, to day 3 of Howling Week on Movies After Midnight. I am your host, Evelyn. I am joined once again by Erynn, and we just
Hi.
watched Howling 3, The Marsupials.
Oh my god. And honestly, I have a new sleep paralysis demon, and the demon is a marsupial. Let me put it that way.
For me, the demon is just this movie, I think. It's just like a TV screen playing this, like, you know how they roll the screen into like your science class or whatever? It's just one of those, but with this on
You
the
wake
screen.
up, you're in a dark theater alone. You're like, no, no, please. Don't worry, Evelyn. The Howling 3 marsupials won't get you.
It already got me.
Yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me, Evelyn, because I made a pact with myself that I wouldn't talk badly about film publicly. And what do you do when the film isn't good?
Yeah, it's
That is
well,
the moral
again,
question. That is the ethical quantry
I am
that I have been going through.
I'm there are good things I could say about it, like in isol like, it's a very strange experience. Like, and it has its fans though. Like, I've heard people who say they really like it because it's a very bonkers movie. Um yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone listens to the Hack the Movies podcast, Tony apparently really likes The Howling 3. But he's also a Halloween 3 hater though, so I mean we're anyway, that's a whole other
Okay,
discussion.
we're gonna get into that another time.
So yeah, The Howling 3, it's sort of, so after The Howling 2, the series almost kind of becomes like an anthology where like none of the movies really have like a narrative connection. And so yeah, The Howling 3 introduces the concept of where, I had to write down the word where thylacines, which are, that's the word for the Tasmanian tiger. But yeah, I guess to walk through, we did get a funny, they like parody the MGM logo where there's like a
Yeah.
thylacine going rare. um we start with a very weird, it's like a silent film of some guys in native dress that
Yeah.
I don't think are
And
have the
I'd like
heritage
to just make this
to
point
wear
at the
that.
top of the film. Yeah, exactly what you just said, but also, like, the entire time I was like, there is no way this is actual Aboriginal, Indigenous, anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think this is extremely offensive.
I'm not educated enough
I'm a
on,
native
like,
of the American variety, so I'm not
yeah.
100% sure, but
I'm definitely not educated enough on the like social politics of Australia to say that, but yeah, I was like, this
yeah,
doesn't
but that's what it
feel,
felt like.
yeah. But the takeaway is that they it's like old footage of them with like a werewolf, and we cut to like a modern day like college course. No, we first, I forgot about this. There's
Yeah,
this cutaway where there's like the NSA or something, and they're like, we intercepted a top secret message from Russia, and they're talking about werewolves, and we can't figure out what werewolf is a code for. And then it cuts
Oh
to the
my
modern
God.
day college class where there's this professor, and I guess he's just like a cryptozoology kind of guy, because I think he talks about a few different like things.
Well, and I wrote down that I thought it was extremely funny that they make you the opening video, the opening clip, the opening shot scene.
Yeah.
They just make you watch it again
Yeah.
in the classroom, and then he explains it, and I was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, it's like
It was like Martha's grave in Batman vs Superman. It just kept coming back.
like Granny's peach tea. I just saw a TikTok video where someone was talking about how much they love that scene, and I had to remember how we were like, we're not going to talk bad about movies, and then we just immediately start talking bad about a totally unrelated movie.
Right? We're trying to be such nice girls, and then we just start going in anyway.
But this is also like we get, because I guess this professor is like on call from the president of the United States, because you cut to like a
Yeah.
swimming pool where him and the president are talking, and we get these meta moments where, because that like he at first when he's talking to the college class, there's like a cut where he's just talking directly into the camera, and then later as he's talking to the president, and the president's like, there's some were creature activity in Australia and we want you to see if it's real or something. And then
It was
the professor like looks into the camera and he's like, hey, why are we being filmed? And the president's like, oh, it's just for documentation purposes or something. But then we never get like follow up on that ever again.
But on that note of those scenes, I found it incredibly surreal and off-putting when he just spent so much time looking right into my eyes.
Yeah.
It was a very bold choice.
Yeah, and so then we cut again. So this movie cuts around a lot. Like, there, like we were talking about, we're probably like, you know, a page or two into the script, and we have changed locations like 5 or 6 times. So we cut again to there's like a like primitive wolf or thylacine commune.
And it's like giving like Little House on the Prairie a little bit. They all kind of live off grid.
It's like 50% Little House on the Prairie and 50% like an apocalypse survival camp, like that you find in Fallout or something. But there's a girl named Jerboa who, I guess they're like, I'm not sure. I think there's like a bald, weird-looking guy who is he her dad? I don't know if he's her dad.
I couldn't tell if he was her dad or if they were gonna like marry her off.
Well,
to
I
him.
think both of those are true. Cause like she's like, they're like trying to get her to sleep with him or something, and she's like no, and she like escapes the commune and is on a bus, and someone's like, oh, where are you? Or there's a weird. There's like a priest, because that's a weird like through line in this series.
Nuns and priests, the love them.
And he's like, oh, why are you leaving? And she's like, because my dad is a werewolf and he was gonna like rape me. And then there's just this awkward silence.
You're so right, Evelyn. What the heck?
I don't. For those of you listening in audio format, I just shrugged really aggressively. I needed to...
It was incredibly surreal. It was incredibly surreal.
Yeah, and so she leaves because she doesn't want to be involved with that, understandably. And she's like sleeping on a park bench, and this kid sees her, and he's like, "Hey," and she, you know, this is her first time in civilization, so she's skittish about anyone, and she starts running, and so he just chases her down on foot. And
which, to be real, that's how you have to chase down these actors these days.
that's just what it feels like to be a woman and walk anywhere.
Honestly,
yeah, because he corners her and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm a student filmmaker, and I'm helping on this film. Do you want to be in it?" And she's like, "What? Okay."
She's like, "I'm sure, I guess."
Yeah, and then we cut again to go back to the nun point. There's like these 3 nuns from the like Thylacine community who are like sent after her, and they're like I don't know, like the Thylacine
like
nun
nuns.
assassins. Like,
yeah, it's like, huh? Because I thought they were just werewolves.
Yeah, that.
But like did they transform ever?
They do later on at the
Okay,
party.
yeah, okay. Sorry, I forgot.
So then we.
It was like a lot, guys. This movie is a lot.
Like again, like we have cut back and forth so many times already, and we are like a few minutes in. So then we get, there's like this whole meta thing where they're working on the film, and it's like clearly a B film. And also this is where we get into the director of this.
I'm sorry, I just have to cut in really. Oh, okay, yes, okay, no, never mind. You were gonna go there.
Okay. The director of this film also directed the previous one, and it was, I guess, like heavily edited, and he was very like salty about like a lot of the way the last movie turned out. So this was his like, I'm gonna make this movie in my like native Australia, and I have like complete creative control. And so there's this whole plot that's just like about them making a shitty movie that's like him being salty about the movie that he made, because the werewolf
Like,
in this shitty movie looks like the werewolves in the last movie, and I'm like, he's not over that.
well, and there's a whole part where the like camera it goes past some people, and he's like, "That's not how werewolves are supposed to look."
Yeah.
And but what I wanted to point out was that the director in the meta plot is just evil Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, he's like,
Super villain Alfred Hitchcock.
yeah, he's got that kind of vibe.
He's like a big bald man, and he's wearing like this like very interesting getup. It's like this black shirt with like two like
It's like, was it like a windbreaker or like,
I couldn't tell if it was a windbreaker or a gothic crisp shirt.
but yeah, it was very weird. Also, I put two and two because I realized like we see later on that the kid director, he has like a bunch of Hitchcock posters at his house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, because today when you go to film school, you know, there's like the Christopher Nolan guy and the Tarantino guy who are like, you know, the film bro archetype. And I realized, I think before those two existed, I think it was just the Hitchcock guy like filled the same niche.
You know what? That's super real. And then like it's also incredibly surreal because like it's like the film is a meta plot about the Howling 2, but it's also like trying to be this commentary on like exploitation in Hollywood.
Yeah, they're like, it's like every idea and thought that was had was just vomited into the script and became like one thing.
But there's also another thing I wrote down from this moment. I was just obsessed with evil Alfred Hitchcock.
Honestly,
okay?
yeah, I would have watched a movie that was just about like her being a werewolf while they make this werewolf movie. Like that has some like,
I thought that's what this was gonna be. I was ready for that. I was settling in for that experience actually before we get to the actual experience. But I also wrote that he has this like speech that he gives them, and he talks about how every single thing is high art.
I missed that.
Really? He like goes on this rant about how like there's no bad films or anything like that. Like every single film is in and of itself high art, and that everything in the world is high art. And I was like, this is a lot to be getting in the first couple like 10 pages of the script. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are you telling me that what I'm about to watch is like, he's like, no, this is high art. It was just incredibly surreal. It was one of those films where like you could tell the director was working through so many emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which, yeah, because I was a bit, what's funny is I feel like I believe that, and also watching this movie challenged that belief, so it's really like, funny that
yeah, it's like I couldn't tell at times what was relevant and what the director was just like venting about.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this later, but I think there's a consensus that he was trying to do this as like a comedic movie. And so some of the confusing stuff I think is supposed to be comedic, but it's done in such a way where you're not sure if it's the joke or if it's just insanity or like what.
Yeah. Or maybe we just don't get Australian humor.
Maybe. So it cuts to it's like Thriller. They're watching a made-up bad movie in the theater called It Came From Uranus. And that's where we get that line where he turns into a werewolf and she's like, they're not really like that. This was like before you had Netflix. This was their Netflix and chill because they have to like go back to his apartment now. But they have sex and they're incredibly sweaty.
They have sex and they literally both look like they just jumped into the deep side of a pool. I'm like, why is everybody dripping wet?
Yeah. And then
I know everybody is sweaty in 80s movies, but this was too far.
yeah, they were like deliberately like drenched up, like and then something I relate to as a woman with Italian genetics, he notices this like really hairy patch on her tummy and starts like being like, huh, that's weird.
And I thought, okay, this is a moment, okay, where I think in this moment, is this moment meant to reveal the full everything?
I maybe like
Because I just thought she was hairy.
yeah, no, it's
You know what
definitely
I
like
mean?
I think it definitely I was like, okay, this ties into her were creature like heritage or whatever.
Also, it was kind of funny that the moment came after their intimacy.
Yeah, you think
Because,
you would have
like,
noticed
just
that.
not notice. Like, what do you, you know?
Yeah, but also I didn't realize later on they reveal that this is her pouch as a marsupial, and I was like, I just thought it was like her like where thylacine happy trail.
And when I tell you, my soul left my body. Because I remember early on in the film, I asked Evelyn, I said, Evelyn, what exactly is a marsupial? And we looked it up. And you said marsupials hold their babies in pouches. And I said, is there going to be a pouch? I just wasn't expecting it to be this literal.
Yeah, I was also not prepared.
Yeah.
So then there's that subplot. We cut
Honestly,
back to the
Can I cut in really quick?
yeah.
Because this brings up a very interesting point that I wanted to ask you about. So, this is a werewolf movie,
Yeah.
or so I'm told.
There is a
And,
werewolf in it. One.
There's a werewolf in it. But this movie felt more like The Fly than it did feel like a werewolf movie. You know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Maybe?
It felt more like body horror than like a werewolf movie to me.
Okay, that's an interesting topic because I feel like werewolves and body like werewolves could easily become body horror. I feel like.
Yeah, but it felt like it was like over the line. Like I felt like we lost the werewolves.
Yeah, well, because that's the danger I think also when you try to like, because there's a lot of you could beware a lot of things like. We've kind of arbitrarily settled on wolves, and there's a lot of different creatures you could experiment with, but like...
Sorry, Evelyn and I were talking about a were-cow the other day, and I was giggling at that. Sorry.
Oh.
I said I was just laughing because we were talking about the were-cow. I wasn't laughing at your point.
I forgot about that. But yeah, like... Because that raises another question of, like, how far do you depart from the werewolf concept and still be a werewolf movie?
Yeah. Because, like, I got kind of pissed off. I came here for the wolves. Ow! And they were nowhere to be found. Instead, it just turned into... Anyway, continue, Evelyn. I'm just so upset about it still.
We cut back to the professor. I wrote here, his name is Beckmeyer. And it took me until this point in the movie to write that down. But he he's reading the news and he's like we see that there's this Russian ballerina tying back to the NSA thing who is like defecting to the West for some reason. And that like sets up for later, and then we cut back to so they finish making the movie and there's like a rap party where everyone's like in costumes and shit. And we learn that flashing lights somehow like trigger the like were creatures.
Because it's like, I guess it's like, if you get too stressed out,
yeah,
you're gonna turn into a werewolf.
So she's like at the party and she's freaking out, and she like runs out of the party to like get away from everything, and like passes out, and the young guy like finds her, or he sees her run off and he's like, hey, wait, what's going on? And he chases after her, and while they're running off, the nuns show up to the party, and the director just thinks they're like more people in costume who came to the party, and then they turn into their were marsupial forms and kill everybody. And that's, you do get like, they do look like marsupials, you know, their noses are a little more like round and like Crash Bandicooty kind of.
And like they got these weird stripes.
Yeah, that they come back to that because that's how they realize they're thylacines.
Sorry.
What?
No, I was just laughing because I was just remembering all this. I blocked it out. Honestly.
Yeah, no, I've gone over. I was describing this movie to my parents earlier today, and as I said it, I was like, man, this is a real movie I watched.
Everybody's so creative.
You know what? That describes how I feel about this movie.
Because it's super crazy. I really loved The Howling too, so I think it's crazy that he hated it. Because I'm like, what do you mean? This is the stronger movie.
Yeah, or like, yeah.
I've seen you do good. And this was disappointing. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, because I think that's also the difference is he directed the last movie. He wrote and directed this one. But yeah, so she faints, and so these doctors find her, and they're like looking at her, and that's when they realize they reveal that like she has a pouch, and that she's were marsupial pregnant. That's what I wrote in my notes.
This like human guy's baby.
Yeah, I wrote were marsupial prego in my notes.
And so then it like I would say at this point the plot makes like a hard right turn into a like nostalgic reflection on raising children.
Kind of.
It like suddenly really becomes about like motherhood is so beautiful and having a baby is such a beautiful thing. It's so beautiful to do it with the people you love. And then it's like cutting between that and then all this like hard science with the ballerina, and it's super surreal.
So where? Okay, so the nuns catch up to her, and they like kill all the guys here, and then like they grab her and take her back to the like werewolf commune. And at this point, the film kid, he meets up with the scientist. And the scientist is like, I think she's a were marsupial, and the film kid is like, we need to find her. And so they're looking around, and they hear I can't remember why they're looking into this, but we get introduced to the ballerina character next. And she there's like a psychic with her or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, he draws her a picture that looks like the ugly caveman dude from the commune. And she's like really hot about that for some reason. Because there's like, I guess there's some prophecy that like she would come to Australia and like mate with that guy. Because she goes out on stage and performs and then like turns into a werewolf. And what I like, the professor and this other guy are like in the audience watching, and so like she turns into a werewolf, and the two of them are like, oh, and then it cuts to they have her in a lab. So it's like there's no they didn't like capture or bring her in. They just like completely like gloss over. Like we get like for a movie as exhaustive as this, that's kind of a hard jump.
She actually slipped and fell and like broke her leg, and it was really embarrassing for her. So they didn't want to put her on blast like that, and so they just hard cut to her already being in the hospital. That's actually what happened.
That makes sense. But yeah, so there was like a premonition. I wrote there's a premonition she'll F the caveman.
Yeah. There's like a prophecy.
And yeah, and she is a like when she turned into a werewolf, I thought the werewolf costume looked alright. Because
I liked her the most for sure.
Like yeah, because she's the connective fiber. This is how we get away with still calling this a werewolf movie and a Howling movie.
We have a single werewolf.
Also, they have, I think some people have said it may be like a reference to the other movies, because they're like, where are these were-creature communes? And she's like, there's one in Australia, one in like Transylvania, one in China. There may have been one in California. I'm not sure. And I think that
Legasp.
what is they do something like they try something and she like yeets a dude out the window.
Yeah.
And there's this funny shot that just like it follows him like flying out the window from like
it's very
a distance.
it's very like hoo hoo hoo.
Literally. And so then we cut back to the professor and the kid, and they find this small town where they think she's at, and it's a town called Flo, which spelled backwards is wolf.
It's a wolf.
Because that's the kind of big brain stuff going on in this movie.
They really enhances the movie experience to read into the subtext.
And there's some weird guys who are there that like say weird things and like jump scare them.
Yeah, it's like every single Howling movie has to have two weird guys.
You could write like a paper on like how urbanites fear of like there being creepy people in the country like reflects all this like class tension in the Western world and stuff. But
that sounds like a stunning PhD thesis topic.
Yeah. But so they're like, huh, well, we'll go look for her, and then we see that she has been hiding, and finally like gives birth to her Thylacine baby in a scene. I was not like, we see the baby crawl out of her hoo-ha, like it kind of pokes his head up, and it's like a little puppet thing, and like, climbs up and like goes into her pouch, and it's like a little like Thessalid baby, Thylacine, not Thessalid, baby puppet.
I just couldn't get over how long and like it's shot like incredibly like empowering, and they linger on it in a way that makes it feel very like, isn't motherhood and birth so beautiful? Isn't it so beautiful to birth a life and to like take it? But like it's really actually incredibly freaky and weird.
See, that's I think
I literally just started screaming on the phone. I was on the phone with Evelyn watching it, and I really, when I say my soul left my body when it started crawling out of her little vagina, my soul left my body. It was wild.
Yeah, I was just caught up in the moment. I didn't even think about what the movie was trying to say at that point.
It was like one of those moments where like you're like, wow, everybody is really just like, do you think he was like having a baby at the time of making this? Because I think you pointed out a great point. It really feels like Eraserhead.
Yeah, very much so. But also I wrote because, like, as she's giving birth to the baby, she's, like, partly transformed because her body is all hairy. And it made me think of how, like, they had, like, the hairy sex orgy in the second movie? And I'm like, do you think the director has, like a hairy woman, like, fetish? And that's why he lingers on these scenes? I need to ask him, personally.
Why don't you just call Taylor up? And, there was something else I was going to say, but I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me.
But, so I guess, so she's been, like, having this baby in a cave, and, like, a little...
Oh, I remember what I was going to say, sorry.
Okay.
That was the other thing I wanted to discuss. I was incredibly confused because it's, like, a mixed baby. Like, a mixed race, mixed species?
Yeah, well, I guess...
Baby? Mixed? It's a baby. That's a were baby.
Because I guess...
But then, like... And then I guess this is jumping the gun a little bit, but it's like a werewolf presenting baby.
Yeah,
until it's not. And I was like, huh?
It hasn't.
But we'll cover that with time.
It hasn't grown into its human form yet.
Which, like, okay.
Let's see. Okay, so the guy finds her, the director kid, and he's like, she's like, I have our were creature baby. I thought you'd hate me because you found out I was a freaky were thylacine. And he's like, no, I love you and I want to raise this freaky were creature baby together.
Babe, I love you so much. I want to start a family with you. I want to have kids with you. I want to live the rest of our lives together. And it's like, it's incredibly sweet and everything. But like, I came here to watch werewolves eating each other and eating other people and turning other people into werewolves. I didn't come here to watch a family start. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, I would have watched any of the ideas this film presented if they just focused on one of those ideas. The fact that we have jumped so many things, because again, I feel like
this is like the first half of the movie is like all of these different plots. It's a lot to follow.
Because also I wrote because she's like, how did you find me? And he's like, I just knew you'd be here or something like that. And I wrote they have a force dyad.
They have a force dyad. How did you find Palpatine's back somehow? We don't know how.
But while they're coming back together, all this has caused like the government to discover the location of these thylacines, and so some commandos raid their camp. For some reason I didn't write this down, but I guess the ballerina werewolf lady escaped and like made baby with the ugly guy. So the two of them are there at the camp, and they're both like taken in by the commandos. And there's this is
the like ballerina girl. She keeps getting like kidnapped and then not kidnapped and then kidnapped again.
Yeah, literally. And also there was like a weird social commentary where they were like, they said something, I can't remember what she said, but it was something like why are you like they say something like, what are you doing they ask her something, and in response she goes on this tirade about like, you didn't give us any choice with your hunting and your killing and all this stuff. Like, it's a very interesting like.
Well, it would be, I think it would have worked better if they set it up a little earlier, but it almost feels like they drop it in the middle where like all of a sudden they're like, well, I guess maybe that's what the opening sequence is.
Yeah, a little.
My light just went out.
I noticed that like everything changed.
I apologize. Everybody's just getting me in spooky orange lighting. Yeah. But yeah, they all of a sudden drop that like, well, I almost wish they would have more directly world builded it earlier, or like phrase it a different way, or set it up somehow. Yeah. Because you kind of lose super easily that they're being hunted, but like it's surreal because I think it's that scene where it's like the people saying they keep getting a werewolf telegram and they don't know what a werewolf is. So it implies that the government doesn't know anything about werewolves, but then all of a sudden the government is hunting werewolves to extinction. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Which one?
I mean,
but I think it's different governments. You know what I mean? Well, it's confusing.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's governments. I think like, because they imply that.
Oh, just like random people are hunting.
They kind of later on they kind of imply that like the existence of were creatures is like nature's response to human beings hunting animals. Or it was like the animals.
Has that ever been included in werewolf lore before? Is that like an implication with werewolves always?
Not always. I know, again, in the werewolf RPG, they get into a lot of that. Where there's like, yeah.
Because I've never heard of. Sorry, I didn't mean to tap.
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah.
Werewolves. I've never heard of that. Werewolves as a response to humans hunting animals. That sounds like a vegan's take on werewolves.
Kinda. because like I think it takes like I've seen it done before where it takes the idea of like a way like where it's like the nature in like reclaiming humanity or whatever.
Got it. Huh. Wow.
But
I'm learning on this
yeah,
podcast.
we come back and we see more of them raising the marsupial baby. And then we go back. So they're like interviewing the like the I keep calling him the caveman. He's not really he just looks like a caveman.
He really looks like every single Howling movie has one character that looks like a caveman.
They look like different types of cavemen, but there's a
Well, I'm just glad that he's out there and we're in here and
but so they're like asking him all these questions about like being a were creature, and he's like, yeah, we've learned to like control our transformation unless we're really stressed or under duress or something. And like basically they learn that flashing lights can trigger the transformation, and then they're like, so what would happen if we flash these lights? And he transforms into a werewolf, and they start panicking. Like, he's like, I will transform into a werewolf if you flash these lights. And they're like, let's flash these lights. Oh no, he's turning into a werewolf. What do we do?
It's so funny how it happens.
And honestly, I did give the scene of him like, because he's like transforming while he's strapped to the table, and he's got like diodes on his head, so it's making a bunch of machines explode in the back. As werewolf transformation scenes go, it's kind of a cool scene.
I think it's probably the best one in the movie for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the most like elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they tranquilize him, and while he's like kind of humping the ground, passed out, this is when they're like, oh, the marks on his back are like a thylacine. That's what they came from. And then they talk to him more, and he gives this is where he gives the whole thing about like the werewolf god is like the god of all were creatures, and after his creatures were hunted, he went into man, and that's how were creatures were made. And they're like, he's just really high off medication, I think. And so
which I think even further complicates the like feel sad because werewolves are being hunted thing, because it's like so he created werewolves in response to I'm very confused at the werewolf lore that is set up, Evelyn. Am I crazy? I felt like I did when I watched World of Warcraft. I was like, I need to like read a book before I came here. I needed to like do my research beforehand.
Well, again, if the movie would have focused on any of these one individual things, it would all make so much more sense.
Yeah, that's true.
So then we get I wrote it looks like Doctor Strangelove a little, where it's like the professor and like some government guy are in this like little war room. There's no fighting in here. It's the war room.
Also, you know, the guy who's in it, actually, now that you say that, he kind of looks like one of the guys. I forget exactly who, but he kind of looks like one of the guys that's in the war room. I forget the actor's name, but he does look very similar.
But yeah, and they talk about how they wiped out, like, the reason Tasmanian tigers are extinct is because they've always been were creatures, and at some point, like, so I guess you were right, because at this point they reveal like that there was like a government cover up to like hunt them to extinction, and then just tell everyone that they're a creature that went extinct, and not that they were were things. And that also there's a plot point that's dropped that the Vatican condemns were creatures as being of the devil.
And then it's funny because it comes back around, and later on he like recants it or whatever.
Yeah,
he's like, they're okay now. I was like, well, what changed your mind?
Well, we'll get to that. Because so the Vatican condemns were creatures, and so they're like, all the government people are like, we need to go hunt the rest of these guys down because they're dangerous. And the professor, he's like, they're just creatures. We need to like understand them more and like not jump to conclusions. And so he like out of regret he breaks the ballerina and the cave guy. He breaks them out and like helps them escape back into the outback because he's like sympathetic to their ways now or whatever.
I'm sorry, Escape Back into the Outback sounds like a great title of a movie.
Or an album.
Or an album, yeah.
And yeah, so then there are some hunters that are going after. So then we cut to and those three that escape, they're looking for the other two, the director kid and the lady. And so we cut back to those two, and they talk about. She says something about how their creation myth is that a dude fucked a wolf one time, and that's how all were creatures were created, and he appears to them in their dreams sometimes. So like the mythology is getting more complicated by the minute.
It's like, which is it? Which is
no,
it?
he's trying to go for the neo-realist approach, where like, you know how all mythology has conflicting accounts.
It was a deliberate attempt to really make commentary on that, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe all of them are true in their own way.
No, that's I think yeah, but so they eventually they all reconnect. And so they're like hanging out together out in the outback, hiding and like evading these like military hunter guys. And then there's this
But they're doing it together as a family.
Fast and Furious where?
Family.
And so one of the weird guys from the town earlier shows up, and he's like helping them. And after they talk about the wolf god, we see that guy, he's like painted his whole body, and he's like praying that the wolf god will like come into him. But he like, it's too much and he just dies. And there's like,
yeah,
this is again where I think it was trying to do a comedic thing where she's like, no, you'll survive and you'll be okay and go to wolf heaven and stuff. And he's like, oh, I think I'm just gonna die. And then he dies.
He just dies, yeah.
It was a little funny.
And that's exactly how it's paced as well.
Yeah, and then the caveman guy is like, he doesn't like the director kid, because he's like, you're not one of us, you're lame, and stuff. And then he goes off. I guess because they burn the old guy that died, like they burn his body, and then later the soldiers find his skeleton, but it still like wakes up and like kills a guy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, werewolf skeleton.
That was like, yeah, the werewolf skeleton really, I wrote that down. That really threw me for a loop when that happened.
It was cool, but you know,
I mean, it honestly, it looked super sick.
And then
so they had to blow it up.
Yeah, so then the caveman guy prays to the wolf god, and we cut to the hunters are like in their tent, and one of them gets killed by just a gigantic wolf head. So I guess it implies that he succeeded in manifesting the wolf god. Oh yeah, and then I there's like, they give the president news about like them having like a werewolf baby, and they're like, we found out that this kid had sex with one of the Thylacines, and the president's like, it was a woman, I hope. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, well, thank God. And I'm like, why was that exchange in this movie?
Like, huh? And could be and that also bold exchange for two star-crossed lovers.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
history will say those two are friends.
I just like the, you know, at least they're not gay werewolves. Like,
that would have been too much.
But also because the cave guy is like dead now, the ballerina goes up to the professor and is like, I love you. And he's like, aren't you with the other guy? And she's like, he's gone now. And he's like, okay.
Which, like, go off, queen.
She's like, I don't even think he Evelyn liked me that much. And so then those two are a couple, and we time skip several years.
Which
This is where we get
buckle in, because we cover a lot of time ground in the next section.
So we time skip, and like their kids are a little older, and the younger couple, the director and Jacinto or whatever that hell her name was.
Jerboa.
Um,
Did you call her Argento, like the Dario?
I said Jacinto, and I can't remember what
Jacinto.
that's from. But those two are like, we want to go back into like human society so we can make movies again, and they're like, okay, good luck. And then we time skip again, and the professor and the ballerina have been living like in the outback, and their baby is now like a teenager, like a 13-year-old,
And like a normal human.
Yeah.
No longer a marsupial.
Yeah, after like I guess after they like age to like 3 or 4 years old, they gain their human form. Cuz
After they age to 3 years old, they can't find any actors that are willing to play marsupial. No, I'm just kidding.
And then this guy drives up to them, and he talks to the professor, and he's like, yeah, well, you guys have been out here for the last like 10 or whatever years. There was like this huge World War genocide between humans and werewolves, and like tons of people died, but the Pope said he forgives werewolves, so now the war is over and you can go back into society now.
And they're like, no thanks.
And then we cut to again him just Philippe Mora just
and, like,
mauling. Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Just to go back really quick too. Just his bedside manner leaves some to be desired.
Yeah, he just
immediately just goes right in. Everyone's dead. That really sucks.
Yeah.
But you guys are fine now.
Also, like, I would watch a movie about like a world war between people and werewolves. Why did none of that end up on screen? Why didn't we see that?
Yeah. Do you think Sturba made it out alive?
We can only hope. And yeah, so then we cut to the girl, what did I say her name? Jerboa. They have like other pseudonyms now that they're making movies under, and she's like directing a movie, and there's like a producer who's like, I want to do this, this, and this, and she's like, but that's dumb, I don't want to do that, and they're like, well, we can't make your movie or whatever, and she's like, okay, fine. And I'm like, he is just really not over the Howling 2. He's so upset.
He's not over the Howling 2, and I hate to break it to him, it is the better of the two. Maybe the studio had some good things to say.
Yeah, so sometimes you need that direction.
Yeah, like, I hate to break it to you, Philippe.
So then we cut back to, he's gonna listen to this and be like upset now.
He's not gonna follow me on Letterboxd like Derek Savage, that's for sure.
So we cut back to, I guess the professor has returned to society now, and he's teaching like, it's like the same college class he was teaching at the start of the movie. So we get a little book in there. Because this is the real thing about this chunk of the movie, is like, a normal movie would have ended with any one of the like last 3 things or the next 3 things that happen, but we get all of them.
The movie ends like 5 times.
But so he's teaching a class, and this kid approaches him after class, and he's like, oh, hey, I'm the freaky werewolf baby. And he's like, oh, shit, it's good to see you. I'm glad you grew up. And
see, it just turns into like a slice of life film. It's very surreal. It's like, where are all the werewolves murdering each other and the magic and like Christopher Lee? I miss Christopher Lee.
Yeah, I miss Christopher Lee. I miss Reb Brown. I
miss Sturba.
Yeah. So then he's like, well, it's great. That's great. And then it cuts to him and the ballerina are like at their house, and it's like a really nice house. Like it's like very spacious, but they're watching TV, and there's like, I can't remember what it is. It says something like the 87th Academy of Lasers and Sciences or something, but it's basically like,
and then there's a bunch of Oscars in the back.
Yeah, it's like the Jerboa has won an Oscar for like the movie they made, and she's like, as she's giving her acceptance speech, setup and payoff, all the flashing cameras trigger her were creature transformation, and she transforms in front of the Oscars, which I think was a way of them like parodying the ending of the last movie. And it's like, oh, the werewolf stuff is happening again, and then that's the ending.
Oh my god, remember when she turned into a werewolf on live TV in the first one?
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I remember the first one. I wish it was then.
Remember how it had all this emotional impact and like,
and how now I'm just like, we just went like 20 years in the last like 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
Felt
yeah.
from 0 to 100 with the time.
Yeah,
and the time skips are incredibly confusing. Like, call me an idiot. You know what I mean?
Basically, the only way you follow like the way the kids have aged up is pretty much your only metric for how much time.
Because they didn't like age the other actors enough at all.
Also, there was this line where like a guy gets like scratched by the werewolf, and they're like, "Do you think you'll become a werewolf?" And he's like, "No, it'd take more than that, like exchange of bodily fluids or something." So you're like, oh, so the guy who had sex with a were creature, he's gonna turn into a were thylacine, and that never pays off.
Never happens.
That's my headcanon, is they're all were creatures, and that's why they don't age. So yeah, that was the Howling 3, and I guess like people have asked people have asked the director, like, you know, was this a comedy? Was it like social commentary? Like, what was going on? And he was like, maybe it's all of them.
You know what I think? I've been thinking about this a lot, Evelyn, okay?
Okay.
We see all the Hitchcock through lines.
Okay.
I think Philippe Mora is on another level of storytelling prowess. And I think he's paying a huge homage to Alfred Hitchcock in a very bold way, where the plot itself actually became the MacGuffin. By the end, all we're supposed to care about is these two families of werewolves, of were-marsupials.
Yeah.
Were-marsupial will never not sound silly to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because like,
I hate to break it to the marsupials listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, which again, I think like it was meant to be a little silly, probably, maybe.
Maybe. It's like I can't tell.
Yeah.
Like, is it offensive if I think were-marsupials is silly?
Yeah, I don't. Because I like, there's a lot, like, you could do like were-tigers or were-like bears.
Were-bears. That sounds so silly.
Were-bears are a creature in D&D.
Wait, really?
And they are lawful neutral. Werebears are adherent to the law. But yeah, I really don't know what to do with this movie. Like,
yeah, me either. I'm gonna be honest. It felt like incredibly confusing.
It's just, yeah, I guess that's like, it's very strange.
It needed like another draft, I think.
That would also, yeah. You know, yeah, because like, you know how they talk about like how the original version of Star Wars was like really confusing, and it's only because George Lucas's wife edited it that it like was any good at all. And like, I feel like that's what this movie needed. He needed his wife to come in and edit it, and she didn't. So
she was too busy raising their were-marsupial baby.
That's what this movie is. He's trying to warn us about the actual were-marsupial community.
That is actually, the were-marsupial community is actually in Hollywood, and everyone in Hollywood is secretly a were-marsupial.
I thought you were going to say everyone in Australia is a were-marsupial, and I was like, what?
Everyone in Australia is a were-marsupial. What's that joke that everybody makes, that there's no Australians aren't real? Is that do you see that sometimes? I was looking at the reviews of Talk to Me on Letterboxd, and somebody said Wait, let me pull it up while you take us out, and then yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I'll read it at the end.
I did. Yeah, I said because that's the thing. Like again, like I'm not here to like rag on movies. Like I don't know that.
Me either, but you give me this, and what am I supposed to do?
I don't
No,
know
I'm
that
just
I
kidding.
enjoyed this movie, but I will say, like I always say, the worst thing a movie can do is be like boring or forgettable, and this movie was neither of those things.
That's fair.
I won't forget this anytime soon. I don't know what to make of the memories I have, but I won't forget it. So yeah.
So talk to me. It's a possession movie that came out in 2022, this year, last year. Anyway, and it's from Australia, and somebody's review on Letterboxd was, "That was so scary. I'm glad Australian people aren't real."
That is a joke I've seen about many places. I always say it about New Jersey. I'm glad New Jersey's not real.
This was so scary. I'm glad the Marsupials aren't real.
That's funny. As you know, where marsupials are a part of nature.
Then what's this? You just reveal your pouch. I start flashing oh my god, this light flashed, and then I just turned into a werewolf. Could you imagine?
That we on live.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm a marsupial. I'm not as out of control as those werewolves. We've learned to suppress our emotions.
We
don't transform
on a live
willy-nilly.
podcast and unveil our existence to the world. But yeah, so that was I really don't know how to close this out, but yeah, that was the Howling 3. From this point on, the series does kind of enter like, yeah, we're out of.
We were scared.
There was no continuity. Like, we're out of continuity now. Like, now each film is kind of its own unique experience, and so we're in the rabbit hole. But I don't think any of them are quite as insane as the Howling 3.
Oh yeah.
So also I know Philippe Mora went on to direct the movie Communion with Christopher Walken, which I know is also kind of insane, but it's about like his an actual like a real life account of a alien abduction. So it's like very surrealist and funky, and I've heard that's good.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about that one for sure.
But
every director has their one. Whatever. It's fine. He was extremely creative, and I respect that.
Yeah. But yeah, so next time we'll be back with the Howling 4.
Ow!
We'll be back to our regularly scheduled werewolf programming.
Ow! Well, I guess I can't see that. Ow! Ow!
So yeah, we will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Hey everyone, Evie here. If you enjoyed today's episode of Movies After Midnight, consider giving us the old like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date when we drop new episodes. If you didn't enjoy today's episode of Movies After Midnight, consider following me on one of the many social media platforms out there and leaving criticisms or strongly worded hate speech. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I'll see you next time.